Hello and welcome to another iVP tutorial. In this session we will talk about another universal machine like the load carrier, which is called a rack, in German Regal. As you can see, I've already placed this here. I chose it here from the machine database and placed it in the scene. And what's so special about this rack? It's like the name says, universal. You can scale it in any dimension you want it to. So, for example, if I use the 2D view up here, I can scale its length, and I can also use the depth. So maybe I want to make it small, big, or make it thinner. Yeah, so that's very easy to do. But I can also set various settings here. We will talk about this in a second. Just to give you a quick heads up, this rack is also fillable in terms of storage goods. So for example, if I go into the tab right here, I can set the percentage to 100, and then it automatically fills it with the set object that that has been set here. So maybe let's do some boxes. And as you can see, it's filled with boxes right there, and it's 100%. And we'll talk about this in a second, but let's go back to the rack tab. Yeah, what can you see here on the right? At the top, first thing, this is not a setting that you can change. It's if you click on the mouse here, nothing happens. This is on purpose because it's just an info. It tells you how many storage places this rack in total has. So this one currently has 104. If I make this smaller, as you can see, it now only has 64. So in terms of the next setting, the preset, this might be very important. And for this, let me just change the storage good once again and add a pallet as a load carrier. And as you can see right now, with the settings of the storage good, very interesting, this is too high. So let's make the boxes smaller, and now I can stack the boxes into here, because each storage good has an offset for practical purposes, that the storage goods are not totally filled to the top, that it actually makes sense. So back to the rack. You see these two tabs are very intertwined, so you have to play with them, go back and forth, but I'll try to keep it now in this tab. So I can choose from presets, like in the load carrier. I can choose whether I want to have the dimensions of each storage place in China pallet norms. And as you saw, it changes. Maybe let's do another one and do the US crossways. You see the dimensions change, and that's about it with the preset. Just choose the one that you want. You can also do this custom and go to none, and then change the settings however you like. If you look at these settings here, these are changed with the preset. You see the width and depth and so on. So just play with this. Keep this in mind. So let's go to none and be very flexible. The storage places per rack space. What is a rack space? A rack space is, let's look at this space here. It's from one pillar to another, which is enclosed, except for the top, with these horizontal metal objects, let's say. So this is one rack space, and you can define in here how many storage places one rack space can have. So if I want to say this has 3, for example, as you saw, you now have 3. And these uses the settings that you can change here. So in here I defined the storage place width to 1100. Let's say I want to put it to 1000, and the depth also to, no, let's make it to 800, and let's make the height, oops, my mouse, let's make it bigger, Let's see how far we can go, because these values essentially are all clamped in minimum and maximum. So try to put this high number. You see the maximum allowed number is 2500 millimeters. So there you go, very big storage places, or in other words, very big rack spaces. That's how it's called. Yeah, so I can define how many storage places per rack space are here. So I don't know, let's make this very, I don't know if this is realistic, but let's have 6, for example. But yeah, the usual goes from between 1 to 3, so let's make 3 and keep it like that. And let's make the storage place height a little bit smaller again, because it's too big. Okay, now here you go, we have this simple rack that is filled with boxes on top of pallets. But what else do we have here? We have a storage place spacing and we have a rack space spacing. What does this mean? If you look at the at this segment here, the spacing that is defined here, the storage place spacing, is between each storage place. What is the spacing? So if I do, for example, 400, you see the space grows between these two. The rack space spacing is another space that is added between in total between the last storage good and the first storage good for a rack space. So if I maybe do this very high, let's make it 800. You see this has a lot of space in between right now. So you see you are very flexible with this. You can customize it in any way you want it to have. I've already shown the changing of the length and depth in the 2D view, but you can also, as you probably saw here, can change this directly here. So if you want to, let's say, make it 8000, there's something very interesting happened. You saw that it automatically changed to 7200. This is because the length and the height, they are both rasterized in a way, because using the settings that you have set here, the length cannot be set to 8000 because it would not make sense to add the space here that would sum up to 8000. So it always keeps the so in general you can go the way from minimum from the least granular options, the storage place, to the biggest, to the whole rack. That's the way the direction goes, and the system looks whether it is actually applicable to set the length that you wanted to set. So let's do another one just for demonstration purposes, do 12,000, and as you can see, because my storage place width was 1000 and the spacing was in total above 1000, it was too much to fit it into 12,000. So for example, let's see if this works. I have a width of 1000 per storage place, and then I have 1400, 2200, so it must be above 12,200 in total. So let's do 13,000, and there you go, it automatically goes to 12,200. So the calculation I just did was correct. Yeah, I think you get the idea. You can, of course, also do anything you can do with every machine, rotate it and so on. Let's go to the other settings down here, because this is also maybe confusing for some people. You have the opportunity to set the bottommost element in a rack, which is called a commission area. You can do this custom however you like. So right now I've activated it. If I deactivate it, all of the rows, let's call them, in this rack are the same as defined in these settings here. But if I choose to use a commission area, I have the possibility of setting a different height. So let's make it very big for demonstration purposes, 4000. And as you can see, the rack changes quite a bit. This obviously looks very interesting, but yeah, you can do this to the choosing, or to your choosing. So let's deactivate this and go back here, and as you saw, it rasterizes the height and length. So let's make this back to, I don't know, let's try 12 meters and see how it rasterizes. It rasterizes to 11 meters because it always wants to, oh, this is too big for my room. Let's go to maybe around 8,000. Oh, this fits perfectly with the settings I have done here. Yeah, I think you get the idea. You can customize it in any way you want it, and it's very flexible and very easy to manipulate. What you can also do is add to a rack collision protection. So right now default is set to none, but if I maybe choose right, I get this little collision protection here. I can do the same for left, but I can also just say both. And there you go. I have added one to the left here. And something that might be very interesting for you when you want to use this as some kind of storage system or emulate this in some kind of way is this toggle here. You just press on it, and now you get these different options here. You can say that I want to use this as a double rack. So if I click this and look at this now, you see I have now the double depth, let's say, that I have chosen here. So it's 1,600 right now because you have defined it as a double rack. I can, you know, just toggle them back and forth how you like. So yeah, let's keep it back to a single one. This is also very interesting because if I want to say I want to have various corridors that are that have the racks around them, I can just say, okay, let me put 2 corridors, and there you go. I have now some sort of storage system where I have very quickly instantiated the racks aligned in the way I wanted them to be, with the corridor in between. And the corridor width can actually be customized as well. So let's make 4 meters, for example. There you go. So now it looks a little bit realistic. The same when I was changing the dimensions in the 2D view for one rack, you can do this for a system. This is called a system, a storage system. You can do the same. Essentially, if you change the length of the rack, it's the same. So let me just change this. And as you can see, it takes a little bit of time because it has to, fill the racks with the storage goods. So just have a little patience, but afterwards it's all fluid. Yeah, I changed the width very easily. So once again, just wait a second, and there you go. And now it's done. And as you can see, I scaled this so quickly. I can do the same for the total, let's say, vertical. So if I do this, the system will now calculate how many racks it can place using the settings that I've put here and the set corridor width and so on, and just be a little bit patient. And there you go. I have now filled my hall with a lot of boxes inside racks. So yeah, very easy to scale up. And let me just put the percentage down just to show you this without the filling. So yeah, you can also do this if you don't want to fill it with stuff. And yeah, very easy to instantiate and then move as one object. Okay, let me just go back to the rack setting and change this back to not a storage system, so we only have one rack, because this makes our life a little bit easier visually. And let me just make it smaller, put it back somewhere in the middle, focus it. There you go. So we talk about all of these settings here right now, and I hope you get the idea. It's just learning by doing, I would say. What is the other tab? It's the storage good tab. I've already done this a couple of times now. I can set the fill percentage. So I can not only do 100%, I can maybe do 25%. And then it randomly chooses storage places inside the rack and fills it with the set object. So for example, I don't want to use a box, I want to use a wood piece. and there you go. It fills it with them. You can set the dimensions of the storage good in any way you like it. So let's say the depth put to 1200, and then as you saw, it again puts them randomly with 25% filling into this rack. So maybe let's make this 75, and then it's almost filled. Yeah, the settings you have here essentially are the same as with the universal load carrier object, the Ladungsträger universal in German, except that you can't put a tray inside this rack. You can also say that you don't want to use any load carrier for this, so they are just directly put inside the rack. But in most cases, it would make sense to put a pallet, or you can also use a baseboard. Yeah, you can just choose that to your liking. You can change the vertical spacing, the offsets that I've demonstrated in the other tutorial, and also the usage. It's all also the same. What variant, for example, I can change them all to beach, or I can make them all random. So yeah, make it very wild. Or change the stacking, maybe go to fir tree. So you can choose that however you like, and yeah, go crazy, let's say. And I think that is enough just to show you. If you want to know more about the storage good settings here in general, I advise that you look at the tutorial from the universal load carrier. But yeah, the rack is the focus here, and it's very flexible, very customizable, and yeah. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you next time. Bye bye.